everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Miraculous Thinking. I'm your host, Elenique Marie, and with me, the one and the only, Crystal Ann Compton. And we are so excited to discuss the next exploration that we're going to be doing together, which is the gene keys.
Woo.
And we've already gotten questions and comments from you guys in the group asking where is the best place to begin this exploration and how exactly is this different from human design, which we've talked about in the past. So we're going to jump into that today. We're going to have a very sort of general conversation about what is the gene keys in case you're new to this. And we're going to next week we'll delve a little bit deeper into the gene keys and sort of ways that you can begin to experiment with the gene keys in your life. And then in the following month, in the month of April, we will be doing The Search for Truth by Mickey Singer, which we discussed, our beautiful author of The Surrender Experiment. We'll be doing that for the first couple of weeks of April. And the last 2 weeks of April, we will be doing the beautiful, the small but powerful little book called Illusions, which Crystal's brother recommended to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it on the airplane. So I must say I read the whole book on the airplane in a 3-hour ride, but you could probably reread that over and over and over and never hit never cease to find truths within that little book. So I'm super
Really?
excited to discuss it with you. Yes, I
Yeah,
am.
so
And with all of you.
that is written by Richard Bach. Illusions is written by Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I have not read it yet, so I'm going to read it real time and discuss real time, but I'm super excited about both of those books and both of those discussions. Before we get into today's topic, I just want to remind you that you can follow us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where we post the video versions of our podcasts. We also have a Facebook group where you can join. Anybody's welcome if you vibe with our podcast. Just look up Miraculous Thinking, ask to join. We'll let you in, link in the description. And of course, if you ever want to reach out and talk to us, we read every single email. All you have to do is write to us at miraculousthinking@gmail.com. One word, miraculousthinking@gmail.com, and share your thoughts, your commentary, and or ask us the question. We will answer. We love to do so.
We do.
Okay, well, let's get into the subject of the gene keys. And I'm going to play the role of somebody who doesn't know nothing about it because it's appropriate because I don't know nothing about it. But
that's helpful.
After having our cool conversation back in December on human design, by the way, if you haven't listened to those conversations, you should absolutely do that. December 2022, they're consecutive conversations that kind of build upon themselves so everybody understands what the human design system essentially is. But after we had that conversation, I was introduced to the concept by you of gene keys, which feels to me like an addition and or a complement to the human design system. But that's about all I really know about it. So why don't we start, Elenique, by talking about the gene keys? What are these?
Well, the Gene Keys is a book written by Richard Rudd. It's this book right here. And it's essentially an exploration of the 64 archetypes of human personalities. So the fool, the king, the queen, all, not written like that, of course, but they correlate to the I-ching, to the 64 hexagrams of the I-ching, which really explore the eternal truths, the myths about human personality. And the Gene Keys is an interesting book because Richard Rudd was a seeker, and in 1987 he had this really intense sort of mystical experience where he had this experience where he saw himself surrounded by venomous snakes, and he saw them like in real life, like a vision as if they're happening. And he describes in one of his articles that the snakes were staring at him. He was staring at the snakes for like an hour, nobody moved, and then the snakes disappeared. And after that experience, he began to have visions. And those visions continued for 25 years. And he became a student of Ra Uru. He was also a student of human design, among many other things. I mean, he went to monasteries, so he's a seeker. And somehow, after 25 years, he just has this feeling that he has to sit down and write. And he said that he did not write the book wrote him. And he just starts typing, and he just like a stream of consciousness, almost like a channeled work. And what he got was a living transmission. This is a book that he claims just by reading the book, in the tradition of a lot of mystical texts, as we have seen with the Kabbalion, that just the act of reading it sort of starts something within you. And even our friend Neville Goddard,
Mhm.
that when you read them, it just turns you, something happens. And so Gene Keys is in that line of mystical texts where just reading it has this lasting impact on awakening that knowledge that is within you, within all of us. And it's a combination both of mysticism and science, because he says that essentially all the information that we need is in our DNA. It's waiting to be, awakened. And the highest expression of us is in our DNA, and so is the lowest expression of us. Which it's not a new idea. We've seen that over and over, but now we're having the science to back up this concept that indeed this junk DNA that supposedly doesn't do anything is full of everything. All the significant things are in there. So that's a little bit about Gene Keys.
So it sounds like um, predestined character traits or energetic possibilities or limitations and restrictions that everyone is born into. Kind of like when we are born, we have a whole astrological chart with where the planets and all the stars and what's happening, and that lends itself to innate characteristics within ourselves. So these are the things that have been coded into the incarnation, and these are things
Correct.
that tell us about ourselves, what we can do, what we came here to do, also our shadow, like where those limitations are, what we have to overcome in this incarnation.
Absolutely. I mean, Gene Keys and human design are based on astrology. And the idea that where the planets are at the moment of your birth imprints you. And in human design, we explored that as the defined gates and the defined centers, which you also see in Gene Keys. But that means that those planets have an impact on your activation. It defines you in a way. What kind of person are you going to be? What are going to be your strengths, your weaknesses, all of these things. So it is astrologically based, but then it's synthesized, that astrology is synthesized with the I-ching and with, other traditions to create something truly transformational and very unique on its own, because it's synthesizing these traditions that in and of themselves could already take a lifetime to study. Right? I mean, you could spend your whole life studying the I Ching. You could spend your whole life studying traditional Vedic astrology. And now you have something that combines all of them. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
So, how does somebody find out what their particular gene keys are?
Oh, he has so many resources, so many free resources. If you just go to genekeys.com, he has a free hologenetic profile. And the hologenetic profile essentially is a summary. It's another way of looking at sort of the same information that we saw in human design. So, where's your conscious sun? Where's your conscious earth? But in the hologenetic profile, we utilize those different planets to talk about what is your genius. So, he has a thing called the golden path.
Hmm.
And the golden path is composed of three different aspects to your chart. It's made up of different planets and different centers. The genius sequence that he calls it, it tells you where is your zone of genius. In other words, what are you here to give? What are you here to contribute? What are you called? What are you designed to give the world? Then you have the love sequence, which is about relationships. So how are you supposed to utilize the relationships in your life, from your mother to your partner, everybody, to transform yourself? and them and the world. And then you have the prosperity sequence, which tells you how are you meant to prosper in this world? Who are you here to serve? Who is your audience? Like where are you meant to go in order to experience prosperity on every level of your being? And so these books, we'll talk about them a little bit more next week, but these are the three little books. So the main book, Gene Keys, basically has the 64, this one, it has the 64 archetypes explained. And every archetype, what makes Gene Keys so unique compared to human design is he says every archetype has three ways it can express, which you alluded to a little bit earlier. You have the shadow aspect of that expression of that gate. You have the gift frequency, which is when you come out of the shadow and you actually take the gift that's hidden inside that shadow. But beyond that, there's the city. And the city is like when you've now gone past the world of polarity and duality and good and bad. And now you are really in an illumined state, expressing that really as a master. And every single gate has that potential, the potential to be in the shadow, the potential to be in the gift, or the potential to be in the city. And he talks about the path to figuring out how to move from one to the other. Unlike human design, where it's very much about doing, right? Like you're a generator, so you need to wait to respond, and this is your authority. This is about contemplation. So I find human design to be very much about who we are in the world outside. How do we succeed outside in the world? And I find that Gene Keys is really about the internal journey of transformation. It's very yin compared to the human design yang. This is very much about going inside. It's not about pushing. It's finding that balance between um, meditating on something and actually actively trying to understand it, just that contemplative, which is so hard to do, right? Contemplation. It's active, yet it's inactive. You're reaching, but yet you're allowing. You want, yet you're not attached. That's the entire path of Gene Keys. You could spend your whole life trying to transition yourself, trying to love your way through the shadow to the gift to the city.
So does the gene key system require someone to have knowledge of human design, or does it stand alone? Could I just go in, pull my keys, and learn about myself without ever hearing about human design?
Absolutely. You just go get your hologenetic profile, get your book. For example, My Conscious Sun, which you will see the hologenetic profile. I'm looking over here because I have it on my wall. I have my human design chart on one side of my desk and my hologenetic profile because I do believe that they activate things in us. Just visually looking at these diagrams, I think awakens things. So I always have them on either side of my desk. But the hologenetic profile, for example, is gate 13 for me, right? So that's your life's work. So if I look up gate 13 in this particular book in the Gene Keys, it's called listening. So this one, you see, I have it all highlighted. It's listening through love. So what is my life's purpose? Listening through love. And the shadow of that is discord. The shadow. So when I find myself in discord in my life, in relationships, in my business where things are just not working, I immediately know I'm in the shadow expression of that gate. The gift is discernment. So being able to tell what is important, what is not important, what is true here and what is not true. That's the gift. So what begins as discord, which is not getting along, not being able to see what the truth of something is, once it's transformed, it becomes discernment. Oh, okay, I can see. And when we elevate it to the highest expression, it becomes empathy. Because as I now am not attached to my version, your version, or paradigms, I can just hold space and feel what you feel and support you without judgment. And I can do that for myself as well, because these are not just for other people. They're the relationship we have with ourselves. So I find it beautiful because at any moment, you can look at your gene key and you can immediately tell yourself, like, oh shit, I'm hanging out over here. I'm in the shadow, baby. And you can see how that shadow, for example, if you have a gene key that repeats, You may have it in your life purpose. You may also have it in some other part of your life. And you're like, wow, that listening through love gate in relationships, let's say, is really playing a role here. I keep having this problem in relationships. Well, what's happening in the relationships? Well, there's discord and a lot of misunderstanding. Well, I'm in the shadow. I'm in
Mhm.
the shadow. So you see how beautiful it's a book. And this book is you and you alone. Nobody's going to tell you how to do the gene keys. This is not you're going to go to somebody and they're going to run your chart. I mean, there's some people that do pearl sequences and things like that. But this is really your journey with yourself, being very honest, contemplating, reflecting. Where am I here? So that's why I love it, because you are the master. And this is really for people that are done looking for the intellectual answer, looking for the perfect solution. And this is when you say, I am ready to take responsibility for myself and be the agent of my change. I don't need another guru. I don't need another book. I mean, you need another book, but the book is really just a way of helping you understand yourself. And it's what you make of it.
Hmm. I was just going to ask whether we have gene key practitioners or people who will read your chart and kind of break it down for you. I'm sure they are out there, but you
There
probably
are.
do you do that in your work? I know you work with human design typing and clients. Do you ever bring in the gene keys?
I do. I do. I actually find the gene keys it because it depends on where someone is in their journey, right? Like some of us are very much in the world just trying to master and deal with the issues of the world, sustenance, survival, relationship issues. So when you already have so many things going on the outside, you got to kind of get those stable before you're going to go on a deep dive into yourself, because you need the stability to be able to go do that. So depending on, but if I have a client that's already gone, really done that work, really is working in their authority and in their strategy, then those people are ready. And they're like, okay, I'm ready to know. I'm ready to go on that deep journey of who am I? Because I find human design is the how and the what. But this is the why. Why am I here? Why is this happening at all? Right. And so it's a beautiful, I think they're perfect together. I think they're just like levels of degrees. And the gene keys, he said, is evolving. It's not over. It's not like this book is the end. He says that he's getting continual new downloads on new strands of information and sequences. So it's a beautiful work because it has no end. You know, it will continue to evolve as we evolve.
Did he ever opine as to the symbolism of the snakes and what that represented for him personally?
I do not know. I don't know if he I personally haven't followed him per se so much or asked too much about that, but I found it interesting because the snake is such a it's such a double-sided image. You know, it can mean like we have the kundalini, which is a snake. We have it even in the medical
Mhm.
staff, you know, from so that's also health and healing and whatever. And then you have the typical biblical interpretation of the snake as like seductress and you know, evil.
Right.
So I find it interesting that those two things, perhaps it's beautiful that the symbol was a snake because that's the gift, the shadow and the gift are in the same animal, right?
Mhm.
Like the darkness of the snake and whatever you think is sin, which would be the shadow, is also the thing that takes you to awakening, to Kundalini or to like Samadhi, right? So it's the same image playing two roles. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, interesting. Well, let's talk about your experience with the gene keys. So did you came to human design first, right? And you immersed yourself in quantum human design, Karen Curry Parker's
Yeah,
kind of um,
correct.
version of it, which is more uh, non-patriarchal. I don't know if it's matriarchal, but it's kind of more of a
It might
representation.
be.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
So you came to that first, and then you came to the gene keys. So for you in your personal experience, if I may ask, how did the gene keys illumine your understanding of self, like specifically in certain areas of your life? Because I remember you talking about uh, interacting with your son and how you were trying to, you know, as a mom, make him conform to the expectation of what he's supposed to do with his homework or whatever. And then you realized he's a Manny Jenny and he has his own process. So you reevaluated your approach and you changed how you parented. So for you, in discussing in discovering gene keys, like how did you reapproach some things in your own life?
Gosh, especially the loved one, which I'm in the process of working through now, the loved one, which is the one on relationships and how come different people are in our lives and what we're here to give them, what they're here to give us, and running all of their charts. I saw so much that the people in our lives that are here to quote unquote challenge us are really the people that are here to help us learn. Right. And so my son's design is here to help me discover the gift of my design. Right. Because that's how I can find it only through the frustration and the trying to control and push and not allow him to be himself. You have to come to a place of humility when you recognize you're not in control. You are not. And so the gene keys for me has been a very internal exploration sort of what are these triggers and being able to notice when I am in my shadow. And then at the same time, being able to forgive being in that shadow because I feel like we have been taught that being in the shadow is bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's supposed to be happy. Everybody's supposed to be, it's not, you know, uh, you have to go through struggle to evolve. You have to go through discomfort to grow. And so if we're just all so uncomfortable with being uncomfortable that we can't sit in discomfort, how are we ever supposed to level up? It's impossible. So the shadow just lets me know I'm aware that I don't want to be here because there's somewhere I'm going. But while I'm here, I'm not fighting this. This is the seed. This is the seed from where my gift is coming. So, having a better relationship with that shadow, having a more loving, accepting relationship with myself, as opposed to beating myself up for not being, perfect or not getting it right as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, it's just giving me so much grace, so much grace to just be myself, to be authentic. And I think that's what Gene Keys is really trying to teach people is look, this is you, you know, be authentic, be brave, be authentically yourself. And it doesn't matter who likes it or who doesn't like it. You have to be able to look at yourself.
Hmm.
So I,
Yeah.
I think it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, I definitely want to validate what you're saying about the shadow. And it kind of comes back to Mickey Singer in The Untethered Soul, in which he talks about the thorn, right? Which we all have our thorns. And when the thorn is engaged, somebody rubs up against your thorn, which you feel is a disturbance, which is just an echo that the thorn is there. And we have to reorient the way we look at the disturbance or the shadow. It is an invitation. It's information that's being offered to you so that you can do a little bit more exploration or excavation, get in there and discover yourself where your thorns are, and then give it the space to kind of come out on its own, spontaneous healing, and let it go. So I do think we need to reacquaint or make a positive association with the shadow. So I have a question for you though about your gene keys. Is there any gene key that you're sitting in the city on?
I
You know
don't
what I mean?
think so. I
No,
don't
you're not
think
in.
I'm in
I
the
feel like
city.
you should be in a city somewhere. No?
Oh God. Well, maybe that's my perception of it, right? But no, I feel like I have a long way to go. Like, I feel like I have awareness now. And I think on some of them I can be in the gift
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. I can be in the gift, especially with that conscious son. Like I do think that it's not a coincidence after I saw that listening with love is my purpose. And I'm a hypnotherapist and a coach. And you know what I mean? All I do for a living is listen with love. Like that's what I do. And I think that I do that wholeheartedly when I'm with anybody. So um that I feel is I'm in alignment with that. But there's so many other areas that I'm like, I still gotta work on that. So maybe it's the perfectionist. Maybe I gotta work with that.
So is there a possibility or chance that someone can be born into their incarnation and be in the city of their gene keys? Like be an illumined being just right off the bat? Or is it always a transit that we're making? Do we all start in the shadow, then get our gift, then move to the city? Do you know what I mean?
I would assume that, just given the idea of sort of like the Dalai Lama and
Mm-hmm.
these types of people that are, I would assume some of us are spiritually already coming in with some serious gifts, and even you see it even musically, right? If you consider music a gift or mathematics, like there's these little kids that just come out and they like can play the piano like Mozart, like writing a symphony. So I do think some of us are born with gifts that are already far advanced compared to our age. So I don't put it past anybody to have some city aspects of their being. Um, but I would say if you look at the state of the world, the bulk of us are probably in the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just a wild guess. But the world doesn't seem to be reflecting a whole bunch of people sitting in a city level of awareness.
Not really. Not
No,
really. The collective consciousness is
sadly.
projecting its shadow. But this is just an invitation for
Hmm.
us to fix it and to heal it. Well, what else do we need
Yes.
to know about the gene keys? How this can help us, how this can change our lives, why we should even pull the file or the chart? What do you think?
Well, I think that it's about understanding yourself, right? I mean, this entire thing is about understanding who am I and what am I here to do. And I think that human design will help you understand how to adapt to your environment, your external environment, and those sort of challenges. It gives you this blueprint on, okay, this is how I best operate. This is how I best know things. This is how I influence. This is my effect on people. Oh, I have a repelling aura. I have a enveloping aura, right? So it helps you navigate the day to day and the outer world. And when you're not getting what you want in that outer world, it allows you to understand that something's gone off in your authority and your strategy, and you can quickly correct. Um, However, if you are wanting to awaken in your life, if you're really at that place where you say, I don't want to read another book per se. I don't want to look for another person to heal me. I don't want to take another course. I don't want to, I don't want to do any of that. I want to go to the next level, right? And I'm ready to face the dark and the light in me. And I want to drop away from this duality, which is really what this is teaching us, right? We're starting in the duality of the negativity of the shadow. We're moving into the duality of goodness, but then we go past duality. So if you're ready to do that, to unlock the hidden potential that's in your DNA and really step up and become the person, the spirit, the expression of light, however you want to call it, that is you, then I would say this is as good a book as any that I've ever seen to help you do that in a very independent path.
So, Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. I'm going to order that
Mm-hmm.
myself. I already pulled
Oh,
my
yeah.
chart. I don't have it up, but I was wondering when we meet next week, would you be willing to
Yeah.
like look at my chart and
I would love
maybe
it.
help me to figure out some things about myself and maybe that'll help other people to connect with their charts as well?
Yeah, that'll be fun. We can do like your life's work. We can look at that, which is like, because in human design, your conscious sun is those conscious sun, conscious earth, unconscious earth are sort of 70% of who you are, right? 70% of the mission, the vision, all of it. So in human design, in Gene Keys, it's also that case. Like life's work is at the top. So we can take a little look at that, and then if our listeners can pull their own charts. They can follow along and sort of see the process through which
Mhm.
we can explore the gene keys to learn a little bit about at least life purpose and genius.
Oh, that sounds fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, all right. Giving us the tools for self exploration, something we need now more than ever, if you ask me.
Absolutely. And contemplation, which I love as a path because
Hmm.
it's not doing and it's not doing. It's really finding that middle ground of being, right? We can only contemplate as we are being ourselves. So I think it's just, and it's difficult because it's hard to know where is that place, like when you inhale and when you exhale, Where does the inhale turn into the exhale? When does the exhale turn into the inhale? And that place is contemplation.
Mm. That little space,
Yeah.
that little moment.
Yeah. Yes. Where there isn't one or the other, right?
Right. Well, if you guys want to pull your charts and take a look, and if you have any questions, go a little deeper with the gene keys, then definitely do that and send us a little email at miraculousthinking@gmail.com. Again, we read everything. And if is there anything else that we want to say before we break from this little session? I know I want to say something. And that
Okay.
is that the last couple of months, Elenique and I have not been as consistent with the podcast as we started out to be. And I did want to explain that because I know people wait for our episodes on Wednesdays and sometimes they're just not there. And I should have mentioned this before because I'm pretty honest about everything, but I've had a couple of people pass in my family in the last 4 months and recently in the last month or so. And there's just been like a lot of family things happening. Also, it's so interesting to me, like how when we're under pressure like this, like our physical body tries to bear it all. Our physical body tries to process and modulate the energy we're taking in, which is a lot. And then it starts to break down. So I also had incidents of like just being absolutely exhausted and or sick. So that's happened a lot in the last couple of months. And I know with you too, I won't speak for you, Elenique, but you've had like some of these types of issues happening as well.
Yes, absolutely. I've been having a real hard time with fibromyalgia and just sort of recovering. I think that all the stress and everything from just going through breast cancer and recovering in the middle of COVID and, losing my son and all these things, I think that eventually like your body's just like, I can't do anything right now. I need a break. And it makes you stay in bed. Like you literally can't get up. But it's been really interesting, this experience of like being forced to a standstill through the body. It has been a real teaching sort of experience of like honoring the body, honoring yourself, really being honest with yourself about the weight of what you carry. Because like I said, we all just want to be functional and happy for everyone and whatever. But um, sometimes we do that at the risk of like dissociating from what's actually there. So I think that this has been a big gift for me to just kind of own myself and be like, oh, okay, you need to take care of yourself and you need to take a break. So if anyone is checking out, like I have actually blocked my calendar for like the next couple months while I get myself like back to really strong and healthy, because you can only do that. It's like, the oxygen mask right on the
Mhm.
airplane. They're like, put it on yourself before you put it. And my whole thing was like, I'll put it on everybody and eventually I'll get to me. And now I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. Okay. So yeah,
That's the projector in you. And of course, you need to
it
take that
is.
time for yourself. And I
Yeah.
think that right now on the planet, the energy is really a lot. I mean, even if you don't have stuff
Hmm.
going on in your own body, even if you don't have stuff going on in your own home or family or relationships, the energy of the world, what's showing up on the screen of our life, is a lot to just be with and then figure out how you want to be with it. And maybe you don't want to be with it. And maybe you don't need to be with it.
Yeah.
Like I've just really been
Yeah.
in a space of trying to energetically figure out for myself what feels good for me. And not because it's fun, but
Hmm.
because it's actually nourishing to me, and what is not. And surprisingly, most of it is not. I'm kind of,
No.
how there's that diet, I think it's mono eating, like you just eat one thing for a meal, only
Like
bananas
potatoes.
or it's only rice. I'm like down to like one frequency that I can deal with
Yeah.
like at a time, because too much of it is just it's very acute out there. So I just want to
It
validate that
is.
for you and for anybody else that
Thank
might be
you.
out there struggling. And we love to meet, her
Hmm.
and I. We love to sit down and talk and catch up, and we love this podcast. And we
Yeah.
do have a commitment to be consistent, but every now and again we have these seasons in our life where we just have to step back or take care of ourselves, and that's really what's been going on the last couple of months for us. Yeah.
And I got this incredible crystal mandala oracle. I don't know, have you heard of this?
No.
Alana Fairchild. Have you
Mm,
seen this one?
mm-mm.
It's so
Ooh,
beautiful. It's just a beautiful, I mean, look at the cards. They're like the big fat,
oh,
big,
yeah.
beautiful. And they're all crystals with the master, the ascended master that goes with the crystal. Right? And
Yes.
so I was like, you know what? Today I want to pull one for for us and for our viewers before we go to just give something to contemplate as we're considering gene keys and just allowing. Oh, look at the one we got.
What?
Sacred Revolution. Sacred Revolution. The
Okay.
goddess Kali, which is the destroyer, and
Mm.
black obsidian. And the crystal goddess number is 888.
We love an
And
8.
so that's,
We love an
we
8.
do. And number 46, I'm just going to tell you what this says real quick. 8 is so beautiful. I mean, it's such a powerful, let me just look over here at 46. This is 1, 2. Okay. So this one says, we bring you the empowerment of sacred revolution. Revolution comes when a cycle of authority or power is ending. It has become inadequate for the task of leadership now required. This is exactly what we were
Oh
talking
my
about before
God.
we started filming. How crazy is this?
Mhm.
And a new order must be established in its place. It is not simply a chapter within a book drawing to a close, but an entirely new book. Perhaps an entirely new genre, opening up according to divine will unfolding. In such cases, subtle change is not going to cut it. You need radical action to bring about the new order. That new order may be in your world or in your own being. What are we talking about?
Mhm.
Gene keys, right? Personal
Mhm.
transformation. When revolution is sacred, the new order will be that which allows you to become more of yourself to successfully attain your spiritual goals. That is our message
Wow.
for today. And I couldn't find one that would have been more adequate for the conversation that we were having prior to this, and also just gene keys and what it's saying, you
Well,
know?
and I released a podcast episode last week on life magnetics. It was my 50th episode. And so I just did like a little solo episode in which I talked about how I'm currently in a season of walking away from all of these things that I have built over the last few years, several years, not because these things are bad or like something's wrong with it, because they were all so wonderful and beautiful. And I'm so proud of everything that we created together in my community and in my work. But I am in a season of feeling a different way about my path. And there's a willingness for me to walk away. And in particular, Elenique, and I didn't know we were going to go here, but let's go here. In
Let's
particular,
do
I
it.
am so over inauthentic spirituality, which is all I see in my timeline. Just performance spirituality, people pretending to be gurus, people with all these affirmations. I mean, nothing feels like I can connect to it. And I've been in the spiritual field, which I would now call an industry, unfortunately. I've been in this spiritual
Mm-hmm.
field for many, many years. And I just don't like what I'm feeling out there. And so I've disconnected from it to a large degree. This is like this podcast that we do. I've got Life Magnetics, got like a little couple of projects that I'm thinking about that make me super happy, but nothing else until I know what I'm supposed to do. And I have to tell you that it feels like disruption. It feels like, and what I said on my podcast, it feels like very gritty, raw human spirituality, not enough people showing what that is and how to integrate being here on this crazy time in Earth's history and also
Yep.
being able to transcend this. Like when I come back, this new sacred revolution, which I love, it's going to
I
be a
love it.
different me. I'm going to have a different contribution. It's not going to be the same. And I'm in that in between space at the top of the
Mm.
breath or at the bottom of the breath,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm just kind
Yeah.
of super cool with it's quiet right now. But actually, Elenique, it's not that quiet. Like people reaching out, like, hey, do you want to work with me here? Hey, do you want to do a workshop here? Hey, let's do a summit here. And I'm a
Yeah.
generator, and because of you, I know I have to respond to the right things. And so I've said a yes to
Yeah.
like 20% of the things, but
Yes.
I've said no to everything else because I'm just at the top of the breath, waiting to see where God
Yeah.
leads me next. But it's hard though, isn't it, to be
So
willing
hard.
to walk away from
Oh
something
God.
that was
It's the
so
hardest.
successful and so beautiful, like the snake sheds its skin, becoming this new iteration of it's the same snake, different form. I really feel strongly
Mm-hmm.
that's where I am. So your sacred revolution card, everything in that reading was exactly for
No,
me and
that's
for us.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that having being brave enough to wait and to follow your authority and to show up as you really are. Because let's face it, I mean, what has passed for spirituality in the last 15, 20 years is a very beautiful show. It's a show. Because if you want to talk about real spirituality, you have to talk about the shadow because that's where we're coming from. And that's what we need to make friends with. And that's what we need to love. We have to love it into transformation. And it's going to be a revolution. Like you don't go from, and I always think about how people think that the light is gentle and kind and whatever. I mean, Archangel Michael has a sword. These are warriors.
Mm-hmm.
They're wearing warrior plates. Like, this is not just a dude that's like, everybody, I'm just going to shower you with sprinkles of love, hold hands, kumbaya. No, the dude's there to really get it done. And so I think that we have to stop thinking of spirituality as something that's soft and light and it's powerful, it's revolutionary. When you look at real spiritual leaders, they've always been revolutionary
Mm-hmm.
and always opposing the status quo. And we can't be afraid to be unpopular and to speak our truth because this world is at a point where no one can have an opinion anymore. And that's how they're controlling everybody
Mm-hmm.
by you being terrified to have your own opinion,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's popular or unpopular. Better like this post because people will get offended if I don't like it. Well, what if I don't like it? I don't need to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what we're being called to do. We're being called to be messy and broken and all those things that we all are on some level, no matter how many filters you put on. We all are broken somewhere, and it's okay. That's part of it too.
Yes. And I also want to say that there seems to be another kind of offshoot industry of the spiritual industry, which is now so performative. That is like a counterpoint to that, which is toxic spiritual activism, toxic spiritual, I don't know, just like other kinds of gurus that are like wholly negative and
Yes.
judgmental and tribalistic and putting us into different groups, thinking that they're counteracting this love and light bullshit that's also happening
Yeah.
in the main. But
Mm.
like, you will know them by their fruit, Jesus said. Check the energy of both of these, and
Mm.
you can tell very quickly whether something is in the light, which just means in alignment with God, source energy, your higher self. You can tell very quickly whether something is in alignment with that. And so in my own life, I'm just wondering how that's going to be. We went to B. Lucille. I went to her first. We got a tarot reading. I did. And then you went to her. But one thing she
Yep.
told me is, you've got this other little project that you do, which we won't talk about. She's like, your spirit guides want you to spend 80% of your time doing that. And maybe
Wow.
20% of your time talking about the things of the spirit, which I've been doing for the last decade. Like it's
Hmm.
really, and it's going to be about 2 or 3 years. And then you're going to reintroduce yourself into the main, and it'll be totally different. And I can feel that. But I'm not going to do that
Yeah.
until I'm really ready to do that. And I have a love and an excitement in my heart to serve at that level, which I currently don't have.
Yeah.
Which I currently do not
Yeah.
have. So I'm just going to wait until I do,
Yeah.
and I'll get there.
Yeah. I'm sure. And I feel the same. She told me You're in a timeout.
Yeah.
You're in a physical. She's like, you need to just process and take care of yourself and like hibernate and go hide. And you don't have to tell me twice, right? I'm
Right.
like, I'm the happiest in my house, like on a meditation pillow. Like,
Mhm.
yay, really? I don't have to go anywhere. That's awesome. So, but it's hard because you get this feeling like you're supposed to be doing something. You're
Mhm.
supposed to be doing something. You're supposed to be helping people now. And it's not when you decide.
Mm.
Like for me, I have to wait for invitations. And I've been getting invitations, but I can't accept them because I can't. And so that you have to honor that too. You're just like, I can't do that right now. So it's beautiful. It's like it's hard, but it's beautiful. And it's like the most perfect school, this world.
Yes,
It
it
really
is.
is.
Anybody interested in finding this tarot reader, her name is B Lucille, Lucile. You can
Yes.
find her on YouTube. She does like readings on current affairs and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And you can also just put that into
Excellent.
Google and you can find her website. It was only like $80 for a 45-minute reading. And I have to
Mm-hmm.
say, that 45-minute reading was so packed with information and knowledge, and it was all accurate. I was just like amazed. So we love B.
Absolutely
We
accurate.
love B.
Yeah, we love you. We love you, B.
All right, everybody. Don't forget, you can write us. You can follow us on Facebook, Miraculous Thinking, link in the description. Follow us on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave us a good review. It really does help us to grow the community. And until next time, stay warm, stay safe, stay blessed. Bye, guys.